It recognizes our belief in God, our country, not just individuals, our country, our founding fathers codified this in the documents that founded this country. Our reliance, our belief in God, and our reliance upon God. Of that, there's just no debate on that. You may like it, may not like it. Declaration of Independence, we find these truths to be self-evident, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, of which are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It goes on in the Constitution to say we are putting together this Constitution in a preamble to secure the blessings, not only for ourselves, for posterity. And that Constitution followed with a Bill of Rights that enumerated those godly rights given to man, including the very first one, which was the right to believe in God and to express that belief anytime, anywhere, including the public square.
33 million. It's proven to the money investors that people want something to feed their souls, not just their worst desires.
Absolutely.
And
yes, indeed.
This kind of sums up my entire dialogue career on the heat of the night. You ready for this? Okay, this is it. My 7 years on the heat of the night. My dialogue all summarized in this. Get right on it, Chief.
Skinner, but Bubba's my name. I like my iced tea sweet and my women the same. I'm your brown-haired badge here in little old Sparta, but nobody's bigger or tougher or smarter. If you're looking to fight, best not be with me. Gonna be held tight, well now we'll just see. You never know in the heat of the night on TNT. Now I don't put on any airs, but then I ain't no slob. Just a redneck boy with a blue-collar job. The ladies I date, they gonna have 'em some fun, 'cause I'm a big hunk of crime-fighting son of a gun. So if you're looking to fight, come on up in the ring. You wanna be held tight, just about anything can happen in the heat of the night on TNT. Heat of the night on TNT. Yeah.
Hollywood, to the mayor's office, and now behind the mic at KXEX. This is the Alan Autry Show. No retreat.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
What the hell's going on out here? Everybody grabbing out there. Nobody.
That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So, 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable. Free at last! Free at last!
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town, Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now, 559-899-1550.
And welcome to Alan Autry. No retreat. I'm Alan Autry, and my pronouns are itty and bitty. So happy to have you with us here, surfing on Big Wednesday with Larry Powell, Sir Lawrence of Powell.
Hey, it's always good to be with you, Alan.
Oh, my goodness. I always get the better end of that deal, and so do the listeners. I appreciate our listener tuning in and our viewer tuning in. We're happy to have you.
Today, huh?
We may be small in numbers, but my God, do we pack a wallop. We pack a punch that sends shivers down the spine of Washington and Sacramento and our local elected officials.
I'm feeling it.
I'm feeling it, too. Well, apparently the Democrats are feeling it because, 6 days? Is my math? You're the educator. Is that right? 6 days?
Getting close, yes.
That next Tuesday,
November 8th.
that some are calling, including me, and like us, Larry. We talked about on the show the other day, it seemed like every election, the term biggest election of our lifetime, most important election that we've seen the last 100 years. But, this one
might be.
Really kind of feels like it. What's your take on me?
Well,
we've been around a while. We've seen some elections.
Yep. I think there is a grain of truth in every election with that. But I think it's more so this time because there's more on the line because we've never gone this far outside of the typical, normal, average democracy. And so I think we have a chance to...
We've never been this insane.
No, we have a chance to lose our democracy in a lot of ways. And I talk about it, you and I have talked about it. In fact, when 20% turnout happens, 10% plus one vote determines what's going to happen for the other 80% who didn't go vote.
Well, you already lost me, but I believe you.
Yeah. Well, think about this. If 80% don't vote,
okay,
then those 80,
okay, I got you.
America is no longer America because it doesn't represent the majority. It represents the majority of those who voted, not the majority.
Yeah.
And that's why it's dangerous to democracy for us not to vote.
Let me ask you this, because I hear your point and I agree with it in principle generally. But I said on this show, if you have not paid attention, if you have just listened to the sound bites from the woke left, who's controlling the Democratic Party right now, that's no secret. The polls show that. You know that the Democrats at this point have lost their way. The Republicans have been known to do that as well. And if they win back the House and Senate, they may very well lose their way again. That's why I'm an independent.
Yeah.
But my point is, if you feel you're susceptible to sound bites and slick ads and attacks, and you look at, gasoline, you can't even afford to drive your car, price of food, escalating crime. If you're just kind of ignorant of those things, which I don't think you are, whoever may be listening. But my point is, if you don't educate yourself at what's at stake, don't vote. Don't vote, because if you voting strictly Democrat Party line right now, the Democrats literally have lost their way big time. Insane. And the traditional Democrat knows that. That's why you're seeing this movement over, Larry. So I've never thought I'd hear myself say this, but I've thought about it a lot. You need to educate yourself a little bit and not be afraid to either cross a party line. If you think the Republicans lost their way and you're Republican and you're saying, hey, this Democrat's making sense, go there. If you're a Democrat and you're looking, hey, we need to give the Republicans a chance because these Democrats in there now think that you ought to reward crime, not punish it. They think that they look forward to gas going up to $10, $15 a gallon because somehow that's going to make electric cars available to everybody and affordable overnight. And if you believe that, and you could go on and on and on, you got to hold your nose if you have to and go the other way, Larry.
Well, and what you're talking about is something really we are very much in sync with, and that is an informed electorate is what keeps democracy strong, not just an electorate. It's someone who knows the issues, knows the people, looks at what's going on, and doesn't just vote, flip a coin or I'll vote party line. You have to look at each individual. One of the interesting things I've noticed over the last few years are the number of candidates who did not vote in every election leading up to their candidacy. And I can't stand that. That's telling me more about you than any flyer you put out.
Right.
Did you participate in democracy and by voting?
And what's interesting, if you've been around a little while, like Larry and I have, but you don't have to be around as long as we have. If you're in your late, mid-30s, even younger than that, certainly in your 40s and 50s, still very young in the whole scheme of things, you remember when certain basic principles of law and order, respect for our borders, that inflation was bad. We lived through the 70s,
those
through the
aren't
Carter
hard
years.
Concepts.
Right.
Those are pretty easy.
Yeah. And now, I don't know, there's just been a brainwashing, a us versus them mentality. And it's like pick a side, and it doesn't matter what the person says or has done or hasn't done. If you got a D by your name, it's like your hate overrides your common sense of the other party. That's the only way I can explain it. Hate of someone else kind of robs you of common sense, and you make really dumb choices.
Well, democracy is based on a two-party or more system, one in which you have alternatives and the people vote in both directions, around the middle, but in both directions, so that you have some balance. When you have one party in complete control, and like in California, every statewide office is a Democrat, that is unhealthy for a democracy, because
it's destructive, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You begin to look at things as if you're right when you may not be.
And you cease being a free-thinking human being. You become in essence a robot.
Yep.
A programmed robot. And in the case of the Democratic woke left, the programmers were this far left woke ideology, the media, and a complicit corporate America.
You also become afraid to speak out because everybody's leaning so far that direction.
Because you've been programmed.
Yeah, exactly.
That way. And let me ask you this, and I go back to the 60s, because you've seen this complete shift. Back in the 60s, it was the Republicans that were in bed with the man, the machine, if you will, corporate America. They went after, meaning the liberal leaders and thought back there, we really went after the fat cats on Wall Street. And if you got control of them, they were behind the wars, a lot of things that were going wrong. And there was some truth to that. But it was all about free speech.
Yep. Because
you had Mayor Daley coming out and hammering the living daylights out of protesters. You had Martin Luther King's marches being, thrown in jail for exercising their free speech and their free right to express themselves. Being able to get up and speak your mind. Names that come to mind are like Abby Hoffman, Tom Hayden. People, see, I was a conservative way back when. I didn't quite get it. But you see now the Democratic Party, it's flip-flopped. Democratic Party used to be the spokesperson, the fighter, the savior of the working man and woman, of the poor, of the union worker.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Right.
And that's not the case anymore. You see now that the so-called liberals, they're now in with the fat cats on Wall Street. In particular, the high-tech social media giants, Facebook,
wealthiest of America,
Twitter, and all that stuff. And as they do that, you see clearly what they're trying to do is silence free speech.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't agree with what we say, there's going to be a price to pay. Well, that's exactly what the liberals railed against in the 60s. And what you're saying, and I think it's the key to the future of this country, if we're going to have any semblance of the country that we all can remember,
mm-hmm.
is to understand that a free-thinking populace that does look into, say, an election and wants to get informed and wants to hear the truth about candidates, that a free-thinking populace is tyranny's worst nightmare.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You got to have ignorance on the part of the populace, right? To sell their crazy bill of goods, it's going to wind up hurting them in every way imaginable.
Yeah, that's correct. And the more informed a public is, the more likely they are to vote for something that is in everybody's best interest, not single or solitary issues. As soon as you become a single issue politician, you've lost what you should be doing when you're out there representing the people. Because no matter how you get elected, whether it's Republican, Democrat, Independent, you represent all the people. You don't just represent the people who voted for you. You also represent those that didn't vote for you. And you and I, both having been elected officials, we understood that, that if you didn't vote for me, that's okay. Come to my office. Tell me what your thoughts are. I need to know what your thoughts are so I can make good decisions. Dad always told me the best leaders get good advice and then weigh it and take value in it. Okay, is this something I want to do? Is this something I want to do? One hand and left hand, right hand, and then make a decision. But you can't make a really good decision if you're only hearing one side of a story. And the Bible talks about that all the time. One person's story sounds true till you hear the other side. And we're not hearing the other side.
You hear it all the time with the talking heads on TV, on radio, social media. They say that politics on both sides, Republican and Democrats, have transitioned from being a political persuasion, inclination, to a religion.
Yeah.
And I think on further analysis, there's a lot to that. In this sense, to me, what you just mentioned, you have a diverse society. In our country, we said, come here. You have a right to speak your mind, and those ideas that you have are going to differ. We're a free society, and people aren't going to think the same. You can worship different gods, because you have a right to worship. You have a right not to worship. You have a right to live basically the life you want to live, as long as you don't hurt somebody else. You take away, you trample on their rights. We have laws that will
Stop that.
address that.
Yep.
There's consequences for that. So with that kind of society, you can't have politics be a religion, because in a religion, Larry, is there anything going to make you compromise your walk with Jesus?
Not at all.
Okay, me either.
No.
There's certain things you're not going to compromise. There's no trade-offs.
No.
Okay. And in a country, that's why all religions are welcomed. The founding fathers knew we had to work out a way to work together and respect each other's differences, because when it turns into a religion, it's either total victory or total defeat. There's no compromise, as Thomas Sowell says, and I really believe he says, there's really in life, period, no clear victories. There's trade-offs.
Right.
And what's happened is the two parties have decided, we're not going to compromise. We're not going to make any trade-off. We're going to stick our heels in. And you have what we have now, where I would never see the day, I thought I'd never see the day, when the prerequisite of being bipartisan to be elected, especially in the federal level, Washington, where the big kahuna laws come down. I mean, the ones that can send your kid off to war.
Right.
Without you, and you can't.
You got no
can't
choice.
Yeah, the big stuff comes from D.C. That you would have a situation where not only is it frowned upon by both parties to work with the other party, if you do,
you're penalized.
You'll be primaried.
Yeah, you'll be kicked out. Yeah.
How can a country sustain itself like that?
You can't. And that's where we talk about democracy is balance of some kind, where the ideas are, a little bit this way, a little bit that way, but we all move together toward something that allows all of us to be free, not just one group of us to be free. Everybody has the right to be free. And
this thing,
unfortunately, that's not what's happening.
And I know this is going to anger some people. Every time I say something, that I sincerely believe that doesn't line up with a particular narrative in the political world, I turn from a actor, talk show host into a human piñata from both sides, but that's okay. But they hang this not conceding the election, and not respecting democracy on Trump solely, that he's the one that refused to accept the results of the election initially. And when in fact that's just not true, that he should have. Amen. Absolutely. I think. Is there shenanigans and hanky-panky goes on in every election, unless you can prove that it's rampant and really, actually affected the outcome. You should make the system the best it can, right? As they say, easier to vote, harder to cheat. But Hillary Clinton started all this.
Yeah, they pointed at the wrong person.
She told Joe Biden under no circumstances, because she thought Trump was going to win, don't concede. She's called him an illegitimate president from the day he came down the escalator at his hotel as the president-elect.
Yep.
I mean, this stuff was started Stacey Abrams in Georgia. She never conceded. So my point is, but if it's a religion that my group is pure and righteous, and that group is not just, we differ, they're evil.
Right.
You will never say evil did good, or evil's, or us, being the righteous people need to take responsibility and acknowledge the truth.
Yep.
No. It's an attack on our religion.
You can't conflate and confuse religion and politics. They're separate issues. They're separate things. Obviously, sometimes you end up with support for one or the other. But what I believe and why I believe it is going to be foundational to what I vote for, who I vote for, issues I vote for. But the bottom line is I'm held accountable to the Lord, and I'm going to take care of people. I'm going to care for people. I'm going to hold them accountable, all of those kinds of things. I'm not going to be sucked in, to one side or the other based on their excellence in delivering a message over a media of some kind. Yeah. You have to know who you are and why you believe what you believe in order to do something. And then you can evaluate the information that is sent out in our voter pamphlets and all of those kinds of things. I get, I don't know, you probably do too, Alan. I get probably 40 pamphlets or papers a week, maybe more. And counting my wife, we get maybe 80. And I'm telling the guy, the postman's a good friend. I said, stop delivering them. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and they never really want to seek advice. They just want money.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They just want money. Send us a check. We got it covered.
I made the mistake of sending some money.
Oh, I did too.
And wow.
Oh, man, you go on that list. And you can put unsubscribe all you want on there.
Yes, you can.
And it's still coming, man.
I have more friends than I knew I had.
Man, I'm telling you, that artificial intelligence has been programmed not to even look at that stop, unsubscribe. And then actually you write something in there, you think they're really going to get their attention. The logarithm doesn't matter to them.
Then I got the message, that which is really crazy, that we've lost you. What happened? Yeah, and you keep sending that stuff, you're going to lose my mom and my sister and everybody else I'm talking to.
It's like you ask that question like you really want an answer.
Yeah, really.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the Democrats, I guess they're really looking at these polls, and I don't trust polls, but sometimes they're right. And if they're right this time, there could be a blue, bloodbath coming up on Tuesday.
Blash.
But in a surprise move, to save the day, the Democrats have called in their Mariano Rivera reliever from the bullpen,
big hitter,
to come in and save the day, one Barack Hussein Obama. Is that strategy going to work? Well, Larry and I are going to talk about it. We'll come right back. This is Alan Autry, No Retreat. I was thinking Amos McCoy singing "Come and Get Your Love." Ready? Yeah, Donnie, come and get your love.
I could just see him as a rapper.
Hey, you heard the one I did the other day. He's singing vintage rock. Hey, Amos McCoy singing. Anybody here? Yeah. Anybody here see my old friend John? Can you tell me where he's gone? Yeah, he's helped read a lot of people, but it seemed that the good, they die young. You just look around and they're gone.
Kind of has a different feel, doesn't it?
If I ever run for office again, I would run as my alter ego, Amos McCoy. Yeah, man, to be a chicken in every pot. A free chicken. Homegrown.
Yeah.
Homegrown chicken.
And Facebook folks, you're just hearing the audio. You should see the video.
Oh, they can see us.
Oh, can they see
right now? They can't. If we post a deal on there, they can.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, good. Nice to have you with us.
Oh, yeah.
Alan's at his best on Wednesdays, I'm telling you right now.
God, it, Larry. God, son, it. Ain't politicians. I was at one of those, what do they call them, those town hall meetings the other day. Politician gets up there and, he looked at the audience and he said, look me right in the face because I'm going to tell you the truth. Look me right in the face. And I said, which one? You got two of them.
I love it. I love it.
Jeremy likes that one.
Yes, he does.
Well,
Yeah.
was there ever a more likable character on TV than Kate McCoy?
Oh, yeah.
They worked her like a dog in the kitchen, though.
Yes, they did.
I mean, a little politically incorrect.
1 minute?
And she wanted to do that.
Yeah.
She wanted to make sure the family was fed, and little Luke had his lunch for school, and
Yep.
Amos would only complain. Richard Crenna went on to do some really great things. If you see there on,
He was with your buddy Sylvester.
that's
Stallone,
right,
You know,
in Rambo. They're the greatest.
He was the colonel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stallone doing one of the greatest soliloquies of all time when
30
he
seconds?
broke down and everything started going, but you could only understand a third of it. You ever run that back when he's going explaining what? Nothing against you, it's over there. Oh, this side, and then the cousin come back. Well, I did Stallone and suddenly transitioned to Schwarzenegger.
I was just going to
10
say it
seconds?
just went to Swartz.
But Crenna was good in that.
Yeah.
That's when he was Richard Crenna.
5 seconds?
Dick Crenna on the show.
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now, 559-899-1550.
And welcome back to Alan Autry No Retreat with Sir Lawrence of Powell. All right, the Democrats have called in the big gun, Barack Hussein Obama, to save the day. And I tell you, watching this guy go at it, it's like a guy who's been starving for 4 years, and they just let him go to the hometown buffet. And he's out there, he's angry, he is energized, and he's got people in his crosshairs, and he is pulling no punches. He's Mike Tyson and everybody, biting off ears, hitting below the belt. I mean, the first guy he goes after is Herschel Walker,
Who is really a solid citizen.
Yeah, and you figure out, and we're going to play some cuts in a moment of Thomas Sowell, who figured Obama out very early on.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Thomas was a little too harsh, to be honest with you, starting out. But as it turned out, he was.
Well, he hit it right on.
He was exactly right. He had said, and I think it's because he said he'd been to Harvard. He's been around these highly educated, egotistical people who really the only thing they've done in life, and this is according to Thomas Sowell, is hype their own careers. He says a community organizer is not a job. He says you just get people surrounded on a grievance and divide people. You don't organize anybody. You just divide people and get them angry.
You disorganize them.
And get them angry.
Yeah.
And they said he figured him out very early on, again, because he had walked in those circles. He had, in his mind, seen many, many, many Barack Obamas.
Is community organizer a training position for president?
Well, that's his
Is
point.
that the question?
Well, apparently Obama felt that Herschel Walker was unprepared. I mean, we're going to play that clip in a second. But he also saw him as because everybody, including me a little bit, even though I went to McCain, hook, line, and sinker about this. I'm a uniter, not a divider. There's no red and blue states, just the United States. All of this rhetoric.
Yeah.
And Thomas Sowell just said, look at his record. He's absolutely has racial prejudices. He's not a uniter. He's never been a uniter of anything. When he was a senator, he was chronically absent there at the state senate. He didn't really do the job that he says qualified him for the presidency. He was the lone vote in the most liberal legislature in the nation that was voted, the Illinois legislature. He was the only one of all of those liberals who voted to deprive medical care to a failed abortion, meaning if the baby made it out alive and if given some help, the baby could live. And he was the lone vote that said, no, you should deny that baby health care. And one of his first acts as president was to reverse President Bush's Mexico City policy, which said you can't use our foreign aid, our money, to indiscriminately give abortions, to just kill kids.
Right.
And that was in place for 8 years. The very first thing Barack Obama did was reverse that.
Yeah, allow it.
You can use it whatever you want to, an abortion whenever. And ironically, Joe Biden, very first act, because Trump put it back in place.
Mm-hmm.
Trump came in and put the Mexico City policy back in place. Very first thing Biden did in office was, so they got this thing. But as you see, Joe Biden is anything but a uniter and divider. So the biggest thing I have against Barack Obama is he's the one that gave us Joe Biden.
Because he picked him.
He picked him.
Yeah, he picked him.
So you know what? His fingerprints are all over this gas prices, this inflation, this retreat from Afghanistan with a tail tucked between her legs.
He picked him?
Why is that?
Because he couldn't stand Hillary.
Well, if you had to pick between those two, I'd have to pick Hillary. Because, again, Thomas Sowell said, look at the history of Joe Biden. You can't trust him.
No.
He does not tell the truth. He's a compulsive liar. This was Thomas Sowell. I'm just quoting him. And I want to tell you right now, I did think Thomas Sowell, who I respect so much, went a little too far. But the thing is, he had done his homework.
Being proven out.
That's what he did. And he's a guy, look, say what you want. I really don't care what you say. I want to know what you've done.
Yep.
I'm going to make a judgment on you on what you've done. If a drug, and this happens a lot, a guy, son comes home, been battling drugs for 10 years, and he's told mama 15, 20 times, I quit. I'm not going to do drugs anymore.
Yeah.
Can you blame mama? She goes, yeah, okay, I've heard that before.
Yep.
And blame mom for not trusting him by giving him money or the keys to the car or all that, because you haven't proven. You haven't.
History tells you.
Your history tells you. Well, no, please, mama, believe me. Listen to what I'm saying.
This time is different.
Well, that's what Obama did.
Yeah.
He came in and said, listen, I'm going to tell you about a whole different Barack Obama. You dig in, and I hung out with terrorists and all this, the Dorn family, and this, the Weather Underground, and, they're part of a radical church, Jeremiah Wright, all this stuff.
But that wasn't really me.
That wasn't really, it's a new me. I've had an epiphany.
Yeah.
And so, but let's go to that.
He's worse than the Teflon president, because he literally will say one thing completely meaning something else. And the best example you have of that is you'll get to pick your own doctor.
Yes. And here's what's disturbing.
How do you get excused for that?
Well, Larry, and again, this is just breaking out. Hey, this man and I right here, we could sit down and talk about Trump's deficiencies too.
Sure.
We could do a show on it, but we're talking about an individual who's telling you right now, trying to stir up the base, Democratic base, saying what's happening right now is really good for you. You need to keep all of this stuff going. High inflation, no borders, crime out of control. And if you speak up against it, especially if you're a black man, I'm going to use everything I have in my arsenal, not only to defeat you at the ballot box, but destroy you forever, because you're actually the black face of white supremacy. He didn't come out against that when they call Ariola that.
No.
Okay. Here's the thing that bothers me. And Joe Biden has this trait. That's why of lying without any kind of remorse or regret
or consequence.
And that's right out of the Marxist playbook. Yep. Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. Lying is not only not frowned upon in that ideology, it's part of your toolbox that you're supposed to carry with you all the time and be able to use that lie whenever it will help you achieve the objective. The ends justify the means.
Yep.
And if the ends is to have a totally Marxist state where big government calls the shots in every aspect of your life, They believe that. It is a religion to them. It's a secular religion.
It is.
It's secular, but it's still all the aspects of
fervent
of a religion.
Yeah.
And that's what Thomas Sowell points to as the vision of the anointed.
Mm.
And he uses many chapters on Obama. And you can apply this. You've known people like this, that they feel they're so intellectually superior to the people around them they either working with or represent. Now, in their favor, in their mind and in their character, they do believe someday, if you adhere to their leadership, someday you will be as intelligent and intellectual as they are. But right now, they have a responsibility.
Until you become that.
Exactly. They have a responsibility to take care of you the way they feel taking care of you is defined. And it doesn't matter. I'm going to lie to you, but I'm lying for your own good. You will thank me later when gasoline's $8 a gallon, when you have no borders, when you have crime. You will thank me later. That's how this ideology works out. And it's those people said, well, it was just communism and Marxism. It's just about the institutions and this. And they go, it's like saying, well, communism was great except for Stalin. If it wouldn't have been Stalin, communism would have worked.
Yeah, really.
And the problem is it was communism and Marxism that gave birth and will continue to give birth to people like Stalin.
Well, here's what they do, and your $8 a gallon gas is a good example. When it hits $8 a gallon, they say, just think it would have got to 10 if it hadn't been for us.
Well, but here's an example of a lie. Do we have that Biden cut, Jeremy? We'll go to that before we go to Thomas Sowell. Now, I want you to listen to this, and this can't be blamed on age, slipping cognitively, as he's been accused of, and there may be some truth to that. I don't know. He won't release his medical records. I don't know. But here's on the campaign trail how this individual who's been lying his whole life in Congress, and you can point out instance after instance. And here's what he said about gasoline prices when he took over. We got that ready to go? Okay, go ahead.
The most common price of gas in America is $3.39, down from over $5 when I took office.
Okay.
Down from over.
Yep. Play that one more time, can you? Listen to this. He's looking right into the camera.
The most common price of gas in America is $3.39, down from over $5 when I took office.
Okay. If you're the president, you've got to know you're not going to get any Republican support. So you're speaking to your base that you're trying to turn out, who's suffering under this inflation just like Republicans, and you're speaking to independents you're trying to convince to keep going your direction. What a low estimation this man has of the people in the Democratic Party and people that are independent, that they would sit here and believe it was $2.80 a gallon when Trump took over. And you're saying it was $5 and gas went down after you took over. You can I swear he thinks we're so dumb that he can go out at noon here when this show starts and say, "Hey, y'all, look up in it," because you saw I went Southern the other day. Yeah, and stumping for the Southern candidate. Say, y'all, look up in that sky. That big fireball, that's not the sun, it's the moon. It's the moon, so watch the tides are going to be changing. All you got to, Larry.
It's pretty bad.
And you know the thing that the really dangerous thing is, Thomas Sowell points this out as well. Back in the day, if you said one of these things like this, you were done.
You'd be crucified. You were done. Yeah, you'd be done.
Now there's no consequences. The electorate doesn't know. If we don't start holding what you just heard accountable, and by golly, if you're a Republican and you do the equivalent of that, there has to be a price paid. When you bald-face lie to the people, and we're sick of it. As Amos McCoy would say, God darn it. But we are. We're sick of this. We want the America back that at least had some respect for the truth. And then when you choose to lie to the people, when the lives of not only their families, them and their families, but this entire country could be affected negatively and sometimes very dangerously, if you're talking about war, what's going over in Ukraine, It's unfolding just like Vietnam. The next step's going to send our soldiers over there. You choose to flat out lie? There was accountability back in the day. Do you remember Richard Nixon? He just lied about some idiots breaking into Democratic National Committee and stole some papers. He lied about that. But you know what? That guy had more honor and more integrity and loved America more than any of these candidates to choose to do what Joe Biden just did. And too darn many of them feel they can do that. If he did that, President did that today, he did that today. That would be that people just say, that's a low bar.
Yeah.
So what? He lied about some guys breaking into the thing. Oh, we have the tapes. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We got Joe Biden on tape threatening the Ukraine to withhold $15 billion if the Ukraine doesn't fire a prosecutor that's going after the company that his son is sitting on the board of.
Isn't that crazy? Wow. Wow.
And then he says, I don't know anything about my son's business dealings. But we just let him go.
You speak with forked tongue.
No, man.
You know, I just looked up, Alan. There are, out of 50 states, there are 13 that have $3.39 a gallon or less on regular, just on regular. Okay. Well, that, in my math, out of 50, that leaves 37
that are
higher.
Try California.
You know, folks, and it took me all of about 15 seconds to find that statistic.
Goes back to our first point. Be informed.
Absolutely.
Back in the day, you had to go look in an encyclopedia or whatever.
Yeah, call the
or
library.
read a bunch of newspapers to find it. You can just Google it now.
I found it in 10 seconds, you know. Yeah, so you know it's not true.
Okay, let's play Barack Obama. You got Obama's words for Herschel Walker. You have that?
Some of you may not remember, but Herschel Walker was a heck of a football player.
Can you pause
I mean,
that?
I mean, some of you
Can you pause it for a second? Okay. Now, did you just hear that? Here's this guy's techniques. Techniques. Here's the technique this guy uses over and over and over again. Start out complimenting the guy, individual. Some small compliment or what have you, before he brings the hammer down and brings out the Freddy Krueger knives to completely destroy him. Okay, go ahead.
are too young to remember, but in college he was amazing. One of the best running backs of all time. But here's the question. Does that make him the best person to represent you? Yes, sir. Does that make him equipped to weigh in on the critical decisions about our economy and our foreign policy? Let's do a thought experiment. Say you're at the airport.
Here we go.
See Mr. Walker, and you say, hey, there's Herschel Walker, Heisman winner. Let's have him fly the plane. You probably wouldn't say that. You'd want to know how to fly an airplane? Or let's say you go to the hospital. Say, that Walker guy, he sure could tear it up at Stanford Stadium. Give him a scalpel. No, you wouldn't say that. You'd ask at least. I would. Has he done surgery before? You're watching TV, heard a lot about crime.
Okay. Well, let's just unpack that a little bit. Here you're listening, just listen to the most ill-equipped, inexperienced man to ever hold the office of President of the United States. Let's do a little thought exercise on him. You say you see this good-looking, slender, athletic-looking man hanging out on the beach in Hawaii. And you say, man, he looks good. He looks good. And then you see this man who's community organizing. And you say, man, he's a good-looking community organizer, getting people together to get mad at each other and hate each other. But man, he does it good. And there's this man who happened to be a senator of Illinois that never went to his job. He had the most absences of any senator in the history of Illinois. But let's make him president of the United States. Would you do that? Would you ask the same thing of a doctor? Would you put a scalpel in Barack Obama's hand? Would you let him get up and fly the plane? Because he got all the experience hanging out on that beach in Hawaii, smoking those joints, hanging out with the Dorns. That qualifies him. I mean, does this man know how hypocritical and silly to anybody that would do a little homework?
If you're going to do any kind of critical analysis, everything he said comes back to bite him.
Even harder, like a bulldog.
Yeah.
Like a Rottweiler.
Yeah. Amazing.
And then later on in this clip, he says that Herschel Walker's done nothing. He's never done anything for charity, never worked for a nonprofit. A bald-faced lie. He trained Joe Biden. Biden was probably a good liar. Obama took him to the next level. And I know that's going to tick some people off, but it's the truth.
Yep.
Herschel Walker has done tons of work for nonprofits and charity. I'd like to line his work up with Obama's work.
Beforehand.
On charity.
Oh, yes.
Well, even now.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that. Release it now, how much money you've given to charities and done what Herschel Walker has done. And he goes after it, and Herschel Walker, I tell you, he committed the unpardonable sin of the Democratic Party. He became a black man who spoke his mind.
Yeah.
He didn't stay on the political plantation. He said, I'm tired of being Muslim. I'm tired of staying unarmed. I'm tired of being people uneducated that are black here in failing schools. I'm going to speak out. And like Larry Elder, like Ben Carson, the fury of the Democratic Party led by black leaders go out and demonize their fellow black brother and sister. Candace Owens, my God, they just vilify her. And let's listen to, we got Thomas Sowell. Sowell's going to break this down a little bit. And a little break, you can't see this, so there's a thing that comes up on a screen, a graphic that explains the topic he's going to talk about. But this one is the Obama administration, and this is picked out of a long interview, so I'll try to fill in real quickly when it comes up on the screen, the topic he's going to be talking about. So this is Thomas Sowell on the Obama administration. Go ahead.
That any private economy is radically lower than that in any administration, recent times of either party. And man, there's nobody more certain than the guy who's never had to do it.
Thomas Sowell on Obama's meteoric rise coming up.
Large part of it was the media. They just simply, no matter what he said and did, it was okay. Talk about people, name ordinary person. There was a time when one statement like that would be the end. One thing that will slow them down in the administration. Their power is the public is turned against them. I was very encouraged by the recent poll that says Obama has the lowest rating the president has time in the White House.
Thomas Sowell on Iran's nuclear threat. This is the Iran deal.
I think it may be a I don't think there's a country on earth two of it by nuclear weapons. Iran was a lot tougher than we are today. And it took only two of those before ready to run Iraq 2 years ago. Iraqi terrorists had no bombs, no nuclear bombs. I think the people, I think we're very much like France was in 1940. It doesn't matter how strong you are in some objective sense, but if you don't have the will, you're gone.
Okay. Let me tell you something. I don't worship Thomas Sowell. He's a man like everybody else, but I respect him tremendously because he's not only one of the most well-known and renowned economists in the world that breaks the economy down so the average person can understand it. He's, I think, one of the most important philosophers of our time, Larry.
Oh, very much so.
And African American, I point that out.
Tells it like it is. Doesn't really carry a strong emotion with what he says, which is, I think, very powerful. He simply states facts and what is, and then lets you take it and run with it.
Okay, here's the question. Does Obama's barnstorming attack on Republicans energize the Democrats enough to turn these polls around and keep the Senate and the House in the hands of the Democrats?
Not at all. And I'll tell you, there are two reasons why. One is I don't think he's as popular as he thinks he is. The other thing is it's too late in the game. With everything, every place now allowing you to vote by absentee ballot 30 days in advance, the ballots are out. Votes, half the vote is already in. So everything that's done after that 30 days, before the election, is not nearly as powerful as what it used to be, and because of the absentee issue. I love the fact that going to a poll and having that physical act of democracy. There's something unique about saying, I get a say in what's going to happen to me.
Aren't we old school, though, Larry?
And we've lost that.
I do, too.
Yeah, we've lost
I like to read a book. I don't want to read it on that computer.
I want a sticker that says I voted.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just sad, And I get it, but unfortunately, people aren't informed.
Well, don't people remember? Are they, as Thomas Sowell says, people are so easily swayed by someone who looks good and talks good. I mean, that's the thing that has led to the destruction in the history of mankind of some of the most horrific occurrences. The one that comes to mind, obviously, Hitler, great orator, fired people up, and we saw what happened there. Jim Jones, that so-called preacher of darkness, was able to convince all these people to take poison and die. I mean, you look at, and I'm not equating Barack Obama with Hitler, and come on, you know what I'm saying here. You got to do a little bit of homework, and truly, those who really think Obama was one of the best presidents ever, do you remember the way the times were from 2001 to 2008? The housing crisis, the economy back then. Now, he did get Obamacare, and if that reform is helping you, and I'm talking to poor folk, middle-class folks like myself, is that helping you? It didn't help a bit. It just created higher premiums. Now, they've got a framework in place that if they tweak it and work at it, and Republicans and Democrats could work together on it, they could come up with something. But you don't see the Democrats beating the drum of let's take Obamacare to the next level and make it so it really works for the people. There was nothing that happened there. He went around the country apologizing for America. The uniter, he right off the bat, without doing any homework, this is how this guy operated. He accused everybody, well, you get your information from the news or social media. So did he. He gets out and does a press conference condemning the Cambridge police. Said they acted stupidly when they went in and took this belligerent, actually violent professor that was being abusive into custody. They find out all the story later, and then he has a beer summit. He asked the cops, well, come over there and we'll go out in the Rose Garden and have a beer, and I'll give you, I'll apologize to you there. He talks about, normal people clinging to their Bibles and guns as if that is an absolute show of idiocy among people. You got to realize now what you're dealing with. We got to deal with these people that, believe in this thing, the Bible. It's going to be, I don't think it works either, but I am concerned. I am concerned because this country has gotten so used to free stuff, and a party that promises you a whole bunch of free stuff is going to get a lot of people taking them up on that.
And they're going to own them in a short period of time.
Yeah. Which means, exactly. I mean, if, what happens next Tuesday? Is it the road of is it a turnaround? The road back to some basic principles that we should have never forsaken? Or is it a further dissension into basically economic and social and hell, basically?
You know that Obama's charitable donations before being president were in the minuscule numbers, almost non-existent, almost like Biden. Biden's average, I think, 1.4%. Okay, and they talk about the rich all the time, but these rich kept their money and didn't donate to those in need, but talk about everybody else donating your money to those in need.
Give me your startling statistic.
What's that?
Well, I mean, that'd be probably not startling to you. It wasn't to me. It wasn't the amount, the number, the percentage. They did some study and about giving.
Yeah.
And they found that conservatives, you would think the Democrats, the liberals, that care for the poor and this and that, would give way more than these staunch, rich, fat cat people.
Sure.
The conservatives gave 56% more to charity than Democrats.
It doesn't surprise me.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
56% more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you could say it wasn't broke down. You can say, well, these corporations, they gave money, this and that. But, there was a lot of folks that if you had to put them in a conservative box, like some people do, simply because they believe in Jesus, and they give and they tithe and they don't have much money, but they give it to charity, they are able to find money and they feel that that's their moral duty to give out there. Whereas, when you don't believe in a God, it's like take care of number one. And I'm not saying there's not some charitable atheists out there, because,
Yep.
All right. We got a minute to go in and so your prediction, what's going to happen next Tuesday? Because I won't see you till Wednesday. Well, I hope I see you before then.
Well, Tuesday
but we
night.
won't have this show. Oh, yeah. We're going to be in here Tuesday night.
We're going to do a little review of the election. We're going to start at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon and run till 9. And hopefully we'll have all of the numbers in, and we'll get a chance to commentate on that, Alan.
I actually do your best, let God do the rest. I'm getting a little twitchy. I got to work on that.
I'll tell you what, I think it's going to be a Republican move, but I think it's going to be less than we think.
Do you think they get the Senate?
I think we get the Senate. Yes.
Do you?
Yes. I think we get the Senate, but tight.
Okay.
Tight. And we may not find out for,
Oh, yeah. Those are great days waiting for that.
I love that.
My
yeah.
God. Folks, thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you so much. And just remember, just do your best and let God do the rest. And I promise you do that, things are going to turn out just the way they're supposed to. Love you all. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye now.